Shut up and sit down.
Welcome everybody to the DwnFwdPUNChcast, episode 16. I'm your host, Jason Saris, and with me is David Reed.
That's me.
Topher. And joining us once again is Brian Bestvina, who is the founder of LifeLongGamers.com.
Is he that fish tank guy?
And he is that fish tank guy.
That's what I thought.
Brian, how are you?
So hey, what's up, guys? Me again. Really appreciate you guys having me on the show again. So I look forward to another good discussion today.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us again. All right, so this is our E3 reactions episode. This is the episode that's going to be focusing on Sony's conference. We have other videos on the other groups that did conferences, so make sure you check those out as well. Before I forget, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can make sure you get all of our videos. If you hit the little bell on there too, you'll get alerts when we post something else. This way you don't miss a thing, because you're not going to want to miss anything.
That's correct.
Anyways, so Sony's conference started off a little rocky with the audio issues.
Oh man.
Yeah,
That
was
pissed me off.
Yeah, a lot of people were pretty upset. I'm glad that they got it fixed, because maybe this might be a little Andy Kaufman of me, but part of me was wondering if, I thought it was funny to wonder how many people were sitting there going, is it my stream? Is it my system?
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people were.
I literally
thinking
turned
that
the
at
volume to like 89 on my TV. I was
I'm
like,
I
why
still-
isn't this
yeah.
working?
It took a while to realize it was actually Sony's issue. I just never.
Yeah.
It was the last thing I expected, is that any presenter would have some kind of issue like that. But
Microsoft didn't have that problem. You should buy their system.
Ooh, shots fired.
yeah, a lot of games, as we kind of expected. I think we had talked about that in our predictions episode. That was going to be game after game after game, and then it was almost to a fault. I mean, I could have actually done with a little bit of talking in between. I don't want them to do a lot of presentation and stuff, and I know that's the way a lot of conferences used to be in the past.
Remember, like, here's our sales numbers. Don't care.
Well, not like that kind of stuff, but like where you bring out, like, you know, the person working on it and they tell you all about their life story. Like, I like a little bit of that. I don't need too much of it. And for a lot of it, I could have gone with a little bit more context, but, you know, that's okay. That's just a preference thing.
I like how they included a bathroom break during the middle of the conference. Did you catch that?
No.
It was the VR section.
Oh.
Thanks, Sony.
Oh, I should have seen it coming, and I didn't.
That joke lands with me because that whole time they were doing the VR stuff, I was just like, man, can we get past this? Like, I did not care.
You know, I think I mentioned my thoughts before on VR, and it's just kind of like, I feel like it's a dying technology. It's a dying art form, whatever they want to call it. So again, when they came out with some titles that were VR, for me personally, I felt like some of the energy was sucked out of the room.
My favorite part about it is that I wasn't sure if I was still watching VR games or not, because obviously you can't tell if you're not in VR, right? It's like, how do I know this is a VR game? And there was a little hashtag, it's like PlayStation VR, and I was like, cool, that means I still have time to go do other things.
So, on the VR point, because I think one of your predictions was that Sony was going to double down on VR, and you were correct. They did double down on VR, and they had a handful of titles that were coming out for the system. One of these I thought was absurd, and it's... I can't remember the name of the title now.
I'm glad you know, because I have no clue.
Okay, Star Child.
Oh, that was the Game Trust game.
There was...
You know who Game Trust is, right?
I don't.
Okay, so Game Trust is the publisher that is GameStop.
Oh.
So Song of the Deep, Has Been Heroes, they made Deformers as well, and Star Child is now their fourth game. So what it is that GameStop created a publishing company called Game Trust that essentially then goes out, funds a developer to make a game, but then they're the one that publishes it under their name, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
And I don't want to say their games have been not great. Like, I think Deformers is probably pretty fun. I did not care for Has Been Heroes. Song of the Deep was a really cool, ambitious game, like a very Metroidvania style kind of game where you're a little submarine. But none of these games have really hit, and they've all been kind of so-so. This game looked pretty neat. I'm not gonna lie.
But why was it a VR game? It didn't make any sense. It was a side-scrolling game. Why do you put on a VR helmet to play a side-scroller?
I don't, like, I did have the same question as, like, well, what's the element? Is this the one with the big robot at one point? I don't know. It doesn't.
I don't remember.
I had the same question of, like, well, what's the VR element here? But I don't totally agree with you because we've seen this before, and Lucky's Tale is actually the perfect example, and that's Oculus Rift or whatever. But I think it's interesting to have a third-person style game where you are the camera more or less, and you can see everything, but you play a traditional style game. But I guess I could see there's that question of like, well, what's
Sure, and we'll think about it this way. There really is no perfect formula for VR yet, right? This is very new technology. Like, we're still learning how to make brand new games in 2017 that no one's ever played. We talked about it earlier in an earlier episode. And, I don't know, VR is kind of like an open book. You can do whatever you want. So what?
It just seems like a weird experience. I mean, that seems like something that people would play just as a regular game, but to put the headset on seemed bizarre to me. I mean, even like, Lucky's Tale, like that looked like it was... where the kind of the world rotates, a little bit as you're playing, even though it's kind of a side scrollers. I didn't see that from Star Child, but maybe I missed it, or maybe there's more to it. I'm just curious how it's going to work. So I'm not going to pass judgment on it yet, but maybe when it comes out, I just want to see what is the point of doing this in VR.
Well, there's also a game called Office Job Simulator.
Yes.
So like it's not like we have like again some perfect formula for VR.
But even that though, like I imagine you're still first person. Like I mean, virtual reality is to make it reality.
Yeah, like
right?
It's through your eyes, right?
Yeah.
That's what we expect. I don't know, whatever. I mean, if it works, cool. If not, then Star Child will fall into oblivion like everything else.
Yeah. So Sony's conference opened up with the Uncharted spin-off Lost Legacy, right?
That turned out real quick.
Man, I swear to God, I thought that was a Tomb Raider game, and I was like, "Who's this person with Lara Croft?"
It looks very Lara Croft.
And it took me a while to realize it was Uncharted, and maybe that's just because I don't know. Are these characters in Uncharted?
Yes,
I've never played an Uncharted game. Okay, so I just didn't recognize them, so that's my bad. It looked like a good enough game. Are people
cool,
excited about the spin-off to Uncharted?
I was saying this almost seems like a new trend where they're taking like a game and they're creating like an expansion to that game, but really it's like its own. It'll probably be like a $40 game. It might not be. I don't know.
I don't know about $40.
Well, I only say that
you can buy it standalone, from what I understand.
That's what I mean. It's like standalone expansions.
But it is technically DLC for Uncharted 4 and gives you access to Unfarted.
Can't wait for that game.
Multiplayer.
I'm gonna pass on that game. Pass. Wind.
Can you please put like unfarted like underneath him when he says that?
I might.
And gives you access to Unfarted.
And
maybe we'll freeze it. Maybe we'll freeze it.
Did this kind of thing happen during the Microsoft episode? No, we didn't.
Nobody said unfarted, so
that's true.
Anyways, you were saying?
Who even knows anymore? But I think.
Oh my god,
we're so childish.
Why is that word so funny? Still, we've been hearing it our whole lives, and it's still hilarious. I'm sorry. I can't help.
So, in addition to Uncharted,
it's completely derailed. He looks so defeated. I'm so sorry.
One of my predictions from our E3 predictions episode was that there was going to be a big Horizon Zero Dawn DLC announcement, and we did get that. Yeah. Looks like it's Horizon Zero Dawn in snow.
The frozen something.
Which there already is snow in Horizon.
Yeah, but this was like a lot more snowier.
Yeah, this is snowier.
I think
it was the Frozen Trials or something.
Zero. I thought I had it written down, but maybe don't.
Somewhere.
It's the Frozen something, right?
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody expected it. It's kind of cool.
The Frozen Wilds, maybe.
There you go. That sounds great.
That sounds
Frozen
good.
Wilds.
Sure, let's go with that.
It was hard to tell, exactly what's going on there because I'm pretty sure that whole thing played while the audio was not working. But it looks interesting. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn was good.
I heard it's the first expansion with actually zero audio in it.
It just does not even have audio.
Yeah, it's just there's no audio.
That's a
in
bold
it at all.
choice.
Yes,
good for that.
But hey, you know what?
Hearing impaired.
Create a new genre, silent games.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that was in there that maybe we knew was coming. There was some things that we didn't necessarily know was coming. I do want to point out for a second, Marvel vs. Capcom, they have a story mode to this now, which seems like almost in the vein of how Mortal Kombat and Injustice has done, where it's you kind of move through like a cinematic kind of story. But it looks like total trash to me. Like, I mean, not necessarily the fighting part of it, but the story mode looks terrible to me. I mean, did you guys think that it looked...
I heard weird things about it.
First off, I think the game looks a little bit too cartoony, too cell shady-y, I guess is what you would call it. But yeah, I think the story mode is taking itself way too seriously.
There's a demo out right now, but I kind of like didn't get it based on word of mouth.
Granted, obviously we're not getting the full story here, but like the little lines and stuff, like it seemed really hokey and just loosely strung together. Where I question how coherent of a story it is. I mean, granted, I don't know who's making this game. I mean, Capcom. But I mean, like, who's
Marvel?
Marvel's Capcom. Who's making that?
But I mean, like, is
Konami.
How involved is Disney now that it owns Marvel? Like, I mean,
don't think
so,
that much
not
involved.
very involved.
Okay, because depending on what hoops they had to go through to get the licensing for it, I don't know if there was going to be any kind of precautions to, like, you have to make at least this standard of a game. I know people get into the Marvel versus Capcom a lot. I was excited that there was a story mode, and then I was not excited after I saw it. I was a little disappointed with what I saw.
I think there was a story mode to Fate of Two Worlds as well, but it's not really a big focus. And a lot of times it isn't in fighting games. We're seeing that change with things like Injustice, though, where the story does have a bigger impact and is paid attention to a lot more. And I think that's what they're kind of trying to do here is like all right, let's justify the Capcom universe and the Marvel universe coming together, and let's have real interactions between these two brands or whatever. And that's fine. I don't think it looked super compelling, but at the same time, I don't think that's really the reason why you're going to play.
Yeah, I'm sure
Marvel's
that's.
Capcom.
I mean, that's not the selling point. It's like an added bonus for people that want to pick up that game.
So I think that the fact that they're like trying to build in this like very like, oh, we have a good story and this is going to be very interesting. Like, I don't get it. I think it's kind of like, it doesn't match like the style of the game.
I was just, I got my hopes up for a second and then they kind of dwindled down. But, we saw a very small piece, so it could end up being much more interesting.
I have
and maybe
a
I just
bigger
saw
problem with the fact that
No X-Men are in it.
well, that's one problem.
That's
is
my
that
big problem.
Like-
The
Licensing problem,
roster is small. I mean, there was a leak which maybe not true, but if the leak is true, or rather it was data mined, the demo was data mined. So if that's correct, the roster is small. It's completely Marvel Cinematic Universe characters without any X-Men. There's no Fantastic Four, and it's like I was gonna say I get it, but I really don't.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
Marvel's just like they're burying their own properties just like out of spite because of the movie licenses. It's not that they can't use these characters; they're doing it just to screw with.
They are
movies.
they are releasing new X-Men comics though, which has been it's been so long since we've seen any kind of X-Men like new X-Men
Yeah, but
content.
Wolverine's still dead.
What?
Well, they
Wolverine's been
haven't,
dead for like a year and a half.
but they have a new Wolverine. I mean, they're all in a weird state now where they have like new replacement
allowed
characters
to.
for everything. They'll bring
no
him
rules,
back,
man.
obviously.
They will bring him back, but they're sandbagging those franchises in
They,
everything.
yeah, they want to take them back from Sony and the other
Also,
companies that have them.
did
but-
anybody see Chun-Li's face? Because it looks weird.
Yeah, so does Dante.
Yeah,
That-
that was the other
that
thing. The
was
character models looked weird to
They
me.
did, and I understand. I'm not gonna see characters that look the same as like Injustice 2's, which look very realistic and look really, really good. And they're going.
They
for
all have a
more
similar art style,
and that's
right?
fine.
Like you can't make Mega Man and Dante meet each other unless the styles are different. If they're too similar, then like Dante looks like Mega Man in like a weird like cartoonish way, right? And it just doesn't work.
I mean, I get that they're stylized,
Yeah.
but I think even still, there were a lot of characters that looked weird.
Yeah, and like I mean, there was a Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe game years ago, and maybe those are more similar in styles than Marvel and regular Capcom stuff, but they still married those up a bit to make it seem like it was realistic that they were interacting with each other. I mean, I think it can be done. You just have to
be honest,
do it well.
I think if they were to have say like taken like the Mega Man franchise, which has a ton of variety, right? Like you could have taken Mega Man and then put like Rush and then Mega Man X in there. You could have put Zero. You could have put like Proto Man. You could have done any of the other like dudes from any of the other games to like maybe expand the roster. Not necessarily call it Mega Man versus Capcom or Mega Man versus Marvel, but in a way like I think Mega Man's universe really has a lot of potential for a really cool fighting game.
Sure.
So instead of just putting Mega Man in there, like maybe give me some extra Mega Man stuff. Like put Metal Man in there.
Something.
Imagine how sweet Metal Man would be like in a fighting game. Holy crap. Like, you want to talk about small roster? Well, there are hundreds of robots out there you could have easily put in this game to fill in the game.
There's a ton of Marvel characters you could put in there.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But this, for the first time, I'm not very excited about a Marvel vs. Capcom game, and I might pass on this one.
It's still early. Maybe we'll see some more. I don't know. But moving on, there was kind of going back to the VR thing for a second. There was one game on VR that I thought was really interesting looking. I think it was called Transference. Yes, Transference. So this is the one with Elijah Wood, and you're living through somebody else's memories, and it almost plays like a movie, and then like weird stuff starts going on.
I don't know anything about this. Like, I couldn't really discern from what they showed how it's going to play.
I can't figure it out either.
But,
I mean, I was interested in the premise, but I can't figure out how it's going to play either.
It seems like it's going to be spooky, which means I'll never touch it. But I thought it was funny, kind of funny that like Elijah Wood is the creative director. I mean, hey, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't be. I'm just saying that's interesting. Who knows?
No,
I don't actually know anything about this game.
no, you didn't see it.
No, again, because like, I hate to be this way, but like when it comes to VR stuff, don't get me wrong. Like, I'll watch something if it's in front of me, but I needed some time for something, and that was the perfect time to walk away, and I legitimately did walk away during the VR section.
It was a title that they were painting as though it was not a game. They were posing it as
So it's
though it
Quantum
was
Break.
Sort of, yeah. No, no,
Remember
it was
how
not.
remember how they phrased that game? They're like, it's a TV show.
Well, it was part show, but that's not like this either. This was, they were like, this is where you get to experience things through somebody else's life, where like they're posing as though like you put the headset on and then you get to experience, a day in the life of some people that, I don't know if that was it an insane asylum or like a mental hospital or something. But anyways, things start to go crazy and you can see that something's off. And it is a game, but it's posed to you as though it's an experience.
It's like that one episode of Black Mirror where the guy goes and plays VR. It's like that, only now it's also a video game that you can actually play.
Now that you mentioned the mental hospital, what was the other game that was like very aptly named horror style, like mental hospital kind of game? Well, I'd know if I saw it. It was like in The Inpatient. That's what it is.
There was one called
The Inpatient or something,
Yeah, and maybe some of these memories are kind of crossing in my head at this point.
Yeah, it looked kind of cool. I was like, that looks sweet.
Yeah, I mean, the VR
like
stuff,
games, so.
I give them credit because as much as I think VR, we've kind of poked fun at VR quite a bit of times on the show, the stuff that they put forward for their VR titles seemed as though they were at least putting forth interesting titles, with the exception of maybe that side-scroller thing that I don't understand. But, I mean, that's what they need to do, and I'm glad to see that they're doing it.
Might have been trying to push it. I know PlayStation VR was a big thing for them, and if they wanted to be successful, I don't think they pushed it enough because they didn't have like a AAA major title there to really push PlayStation VR. In terms of my own personal feelings about VR, I think they probably push it too much because I would have rather not seen it. But if they wanted to be successful and they want their audience who went out and bought one, however many months ago that it came out, they needed to come with a heavier hitter than what they came with.
My biggest problem with Sony and VR is that Sony has got to have creative control over everything they allow to come out on it, which means that it limits developers in a sense. Whereas, like, if you take the HTC Vive, which is primarily PC-based, anyone can make an HTC Vive game. I mean, one of the most popular games is a game where you stand on a plank above 100 feet above the city and you try not to fall off of it. It's stupid, and everyone loves it. And it's called, like, I don't know, like Mike Jones's Plank Game or something. It's so silly. Like, it doesn't actually even have a proper name. But, like, Sony's not going to really allow those kinds of things. Most likely, they're going to be like, we need it's got to be a AAA title, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
whatever.
I mean, they're trying to show it's worth it spending the money for, which I get. I get your point too, but I think that'll come with time after people start to adopt it and they're like, all right, we can loosen the reins a little bit.
Here's another problem. You have games like Farpoint, which come with a cool gun and you put your move controller in it, and it supposedly is very good, right? And then after that initial run, they're just like, we're never going to make this ever again.
Right.
Like, it's like you had your one shot to play this, now you're out of luck. It's like, why? That's a great game right there. People are positively reviewing this game. Everyone says it's great. Where is it? It's nowhere to be found. Yeah. Completely gone nationwide.
The VR thing is a weird thing. I'm still not sold that it's going to be a permanent thing.
Same.
But we'll see, I guess. Can we talk a second about God of War?
What do you mean a second? You want to talk like 30 minutes about God of War?
Oh my God. Like, this game looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
Just so good. Like, this is a console mover. Like, I am somebody who does not own a PlayStation. I've never owned. I mean, I've lived with people that own it, so I kind of had one by proxy for a while. But this is a game that I'm like, wow, if I can pick up a really cheap PS4 somehow, I would pick it up to play this, because this looks like it's going to be that good. I like what I saw. I mean, the scale of some of these enemies that we're seeing.
Which God of War has always been very good about that.
Oh, God. But, like...
They do such a good job with that.
It just looks visually incredible, and everything about it. The more I see, the more I think this is going to be as good as we hoping it to be. I didn't play the original God of Wars. This looks like it's taken a much different kind of approach than those ones did. I know. I didn't have a PlayStation.
They're so good.
They are very good, and this one does look like it's taking a different approach, which is actually exactly what needs to happen. Because if you go back and play God of Wars now, they're still good, but you can tell that they're a little bit dated, because they use like a fixed camera system, which I just don't think would fly anymore.
Yeah.
And
a lot of quick time events.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are what they are, but I think some of them are kind of cool. But this new God of War looks like, okay, let's take the scale that we had in the past, that brutal battling that we had, and then kind of modernize it to be a little bit more familiar with a third person, fully controllable.
So it's The Last of Us starring Kratos, it looks like.
No,
You
it's
sure?
not that.
You sure?
It is not.
You're leaving
that.
a small child around, and there's things you got to get. You got to fight to protect the child.
Get out of here.
It's The Last of Us.
Oh,
it's with
God.
You just use flying chain.
One
swords.
of my pet peeves is when somebody takes one detail and uses it
I'm
to
joking.
make an analogy between two things, and this is not the only time somebody does it. I have one friend who's the worst at describing any video game, because he'll take one minor detail and be like, oh, so it's like so he'll be like, The Last of Us, oh, so that's kind of like Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
What?
Absolutely.
Well, they both got guns, and I'm just like, oh, come on, man. But anyway.
Well, did you see the Sky in God of War? It's exactly like the one in Forza.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
they're basically the same
They're
game.
pretty much the same game. God of Racing.
But God of War looks really, really excellent.
It does.
But we knew it was coming. And that's the problem that Sony's conference had overall, is there was very little that was, like, surprising.
Shadow of the Colossus. I thought that was a huge
It was.
You just
But that was
casually
the
mentioned
big
Shadow of
thing.
the Colossus like it wasn't a big deal. You just ruined its entire pot. Can we start over? You've literally ruined this.
Okay.
And that was the single surprise of the Sony press conference.
I had this whole grand vision of
he's
how you were going to announce
but
this game.
David's right.
And you were just
because
like...
that is the only thing that Sony had that was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Beside that, we knew everything that was
Pretty
going to be
much.
shown, pretty much.
They didn't even show Last of Us.
They did it.
They did a whole demo, like an hour-long demo of Days Gone, which looks just like Uncharted with zombies. Because there's guns in it. There's guns in it.
You're doing it.
I'm sorry, I didn't do that on purpose.
I was not too impressed with Days Gone. When I saw it, I just, how many...
Before you even get into that, I wanted to point out something really neat about the God of War trailer.
Okay.
It was a very cool trailer. I really enjoyed it. But at the very end of it, right now, you guys didn't even talk about this. God of War has completely gone away from Greek mythology.
Right, now it's
all
Norse.
mythology, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And just from the video games that I've played over the years and like some of the TV shows that I've watched, like Vikings, for example, I started to catch up on Norse mythology, and it's fascinating. Like the whole concept of like Ragnarok and Odin and Yggdrasil, like the Tree of Life, and Midgardsormr, this giant snake with serpent thing, right? I was like, holy crap, like I know all this stuff because I played Final Fantasy games and I've watched TV shows and all this stuff. And the very end of that trailer is a really cool thing, and I don't know if you caught this, but at the end of the trailer, they're on this boat and there's this enormous snake that comes out, right?
Yeah.
It's the world
The Loch
serpent.
Ness Monster.
Yeah, no, it's the world serpent. The Loch Ness Monster is not Norse mythology, okay? It's like
No,
Scottish.
that's Norse fact.
It's Norse fact.
Go on.
Anyway, so this like giant serpent comes out of the water, and Kratos is like, all right, like, let's go. I'm going to take this thing on. And the small child is like, hey, he doesn't want to hurt us. He wants to help us.
Because he can speak parcel tongue.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Apparently. I don't know.
What is he saying, boy?
So
He says
what
he
I
wants to have...
Dad, it's a monster.
And you've never played the original God of War, but
No.
what's cool about that scene is that in the demo for God of War, the original, when it first came out, to get people kind of excited, there is a scene in the game where you fight a three-headed Hydra, right?
Okay.
And it's very similar to that ending scene of the thing, except you do fight it, obviously, and you have to, cut its heads off, and it's really cool. It's like, it was enough for anybody that played the demo to be like, I need this game.
Yeah.
And in the demo, they're like, if you remember that, it was like the snake comes out, and they're just like, he's ready to go, and you're like, yeah, I remember this from the original one,
Right,
and he's
right.
like, no, he wants to help us, and you're like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And then it's like 2018 question mark. But no, I thought that was really cool. The God of War trailer. It's funny. I almost hate when there's a game that has a cool trailer because I just don't care. Like you've already won me over the minute you mentioned the name. I was like, you don't even have to show me anything.
That was
it's
my
like,
problem
like
with
Kingdom
God of
Hearts.
War.
Like, hey, just tell me it's coming out and I'll buy it whenever it shows up, right? Like, whatever. But yeah, like it's like cool trailer, but what's so what?
That was one of their like big titles to show, but it's like, yeah, but I'm already sold on this.
I know.
And I already know it exists. We've already seen some footage of it, so it was cool to see a new trailer for it. But because it was like one of the big pieces in their conference, it was kind of like, okay,
Yeah, you expected it, but
you did your work on this game already. Though.
Yeah.
Like I'm good.
yeah, all you had to do was just tell me about
Yeah.
it, or hint that it was coming. So, but yeah, and then you mentioned like Days Gone, right? Like Days Gone had this very elaborate demo, right? And again, I'm so glad that I kind of did some research outside of just watching things at face value, because there's a particular scene in that where somebody points out a few things, and one of them was, you have all these zombies in the game, right? The first demo we saw 2 years ago just had you running away from hordes of zombies, much like in that that World War Z film, right?
Yeah.
And then in this demo, it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't running away from zombies. It was using them as a puzzle element, which I thought was really cool. And I'm like, okay, I can get in behind this. There's a scene where you're walking up on like a little camp on the side of the road where like there's some people there. Most likely they'll probably try to kill you, right? And so what does he do? He throws like a rock, and the rock creates a distraction. And you're like, I've done that in a million other video games. Like, what's so special about that? Well, unless you really kind of paid attention, the whole purpose of that demo is that he walks over to where the noise is, gets caught in a bear trap. He starts to scream. Screaming attracts zombies. Zombies then take out the camp, which allows you to move forward. And I was like, okay, that's pretty neat,
Yeah.
Like, if that's the kind of stuff that I get to do in this game, then I might be on board.
I do give the
We'll
game
see.
credit because, to your point, it seems like it is a game about a situation that also happens to have zombies, rather than being about a game where the primary thing is zombies. I mean, zombies are an element versus the purpose behind the game.
Yes.
It just, I have to see more of it.
I guess
At this
it looks
point,
too
it just
familiar to me. It feels like every other
there's
game
so
that
many
looks like
zombie
that.
games out that I need something that really distinguishes it to me. And of all the zombie games that I've seen that are coming out either now or in the near future, this one just seemed the least exciting to me. So
I agree.
I got to see more, but whatever.
This is not a game I will buy on day one unless I find out that it's worth it, maybe by word of mouth. But it looked cool. But again, to me, it felt like, and I hate to make comparisons, but I've never been a giant Uncharted fan, even though I've played most of them. But it's like at this point, I kind of don't want to play, much like Assassin's Creed. I've played enough of them to realize I don't really want to play anymore. And Uncharted feels like the same way. This game just feels too much like that Sony third-person, very well-crafted, like...
You feel like you've done it before.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like anything different.
Can somebody tell me what in God's name this Monster of the Deep game is? Like, I'm watching
Yep.
fishing happening,
part of
and I'm
the-
like, why are we doing a fishing game? And all of a sudden it's like Final Fantasy. Like, what? What is happening with this?
Do you know about this, right, Chris?
Oh, I know about it.
Did you see like the Final Fantasy universe like trailer that shows literally everything they're doing to envelop this game into one big giant thing?
I don't know if I did.
So there's a quick trailer online that I found, and I was like, this is weird. Like, what is this? And it's all about like what Final Fantasy 15 is, right? It's like Final Fantasy 15 the game, and then it's like King's Knight is coming to mobile. Then you have like Monster Joker 5, the pinball thing.
Wait, is King's Knight actually coming to mobile?
It's actually coming to mobile,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Which is cool because they reference it a ton in the game. There was like, I'll beat you in King's Knight. And you're like, what's that? It doesn't exist. Now it does.
Oh, that's cool.
This monster fishing game is like elaborating on the fishing aspect of what happens in 15, which
Yeah.
wasn't really that fun, realistically. It was kind of mediocre.
Yeah, it was like, okay, but there is an element of fishing in Final Fantasy 15, and like I was
So
watching.
they made a whole game of it? Is that
Sure.
basically what it is?
Well, not only a whole game of it, a VR game of it.
Yeah. Dude,
Do I
do
think
you
that this is
remember-
necessary? No, I do not.
When is the last time that you were out watching do an arcade and you saw Sega Bass Fishing and you're like, I'm not putting my money in that machine?
Like, every time I've ever
Yeah,
walked
You're
into
the
an arcade.
worst. And that game was incredible. I'm not a liar. Sega Bass Fishing was one of the greatest fishing games ever made. It made me want to become a fisherman in real life.
I have never, like, I cannot tell you one time I've ever been like, I need to play a fishing game right now.
God. sick of this. Fishing was so good. Anyway, I was kind of like, I got the feeling like, all right, I could maybe get behind this. This looks fun.
You're gonna pay $60 for
No.
Final Fantasy characters fishing?
No, because that's not even $60. I still have to buy a VR headset.
That's right. So you're gonna pay
anyway.
$650 for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, but like Final Fantasy is like they're trying to make this huge thing into 15. It's basically saying like it wasn't good enough that it took us this long to make this game. Now we have to make it into its own like entire giant universe of stuff. Like here's a movie and an anime and two mobile games
But the thing
and a
is,
fishing game.
there's already a fishing game for Final Fantasy 15 because it's in Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole you
for
can
what it's
go
worth,
fishing.
the majority of the fish that you catch in that game are just kind of very simple, like bluegill, like bass, and like some big stuff.
What was that, Vespergar?
Yeah.
I said forget it.
But like
that thing was hard.
in the demo, like the demo for this fishing.
Yeah, it
VR
looks
game,
like actually like
it looks
a
like some
monster.
pretty sweet stuff. Yeah,
Which
So,
is
whatever.
Yeah, but
Look,
that
I'm not
just
gonna
didn't need
buy
to be
it.
done. Yeah,
I'm just
it
trying
didn't need to
to
be done.
validate its existence.
You're not gonna.
All right, moving on. So we saw a lot more of Detroit Become Human, which was a game that I'm excited for. But it took a much different approach than I had expected. Like, this is much different than what I thought it was before. Like, in the past, we saw that one scene where they're, like, at the rooftop, and I thought that the android cop was kind of your protagonist, and the game is about making decisions as that guy to play this out. This, we saw, like, a whole nother element to this, where there's, like, various androids, and I think we might end up getting a game that tells a story from multiple perspectives, and it's like a whole android uprising and all these other things in here. What did you think of what we saw? I mean, is Detroit Become Human? Is this going to be something worth picking up, or is this starting to become more of a niche game for you?
I personally, I don't really care about it that much, and I don't know why. I don't have a problem with this type of game. Like, it looks like the same type of game as like Until Dawn or Life is Strange, where it's you make choices, but there's also gameplay. But it's a story based. Like, I like those types of games, but for some reason I just don't care about this one.
I don't think I care about the developer. What is it? Who makes the game? Crystal Dynamics or something? Or
No, it's not Crystal Dynamics.
No. What is the name of the company?
I
forget.
can't remember. It's that one that made another game that you didn't care about.
Is it?
Well,
Heavy
there was
Rain?
Beyond Two Souls, and then there was Heavy Rain, and I didn't care for either one of those games.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know that they're kind of acclaimed in a way, but remember when we were talking earlier about like the game that defined graphics in a generation? Like Heavy Rain was that game for PS3, and I think that's why a lot of people initially bought into it. I don't really think that game was that good. There were some cool moments, especially when you gotta like decide to cut off your hand or something weird.
Jeez.
I'm like, okay, this game's like crazy now, but. Dude, I don't know. I didn't care for Heavy Rain. It was so weird and awkward. Like the cop. You remember? Did you play that game at all?
No.
Oh, dude, there's like a scene with like this cop and like he's wearing these sunglasses and he's like just super weird. And then there's the whole scene in the mall where you just keep saying your son's name over in the same inflection. There is no like high pitch, low pitch, medium. I mean, it's always like Jason, 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 Jason. And it took me immediately out of this amazing surreal experience that I was supposed to be getting.
Yeah.
When he's like walking around like a complete robot, not using any different tone of voice. And I was like, why does anybody like this? Like, that might be picky, but that was a big deal to me. I felt like this game did not live up to any promise, whatsoever. And all the other weird characters in the game were strange. I didn't even bother playing Beyond Two Souls. And now that this is made by the same people, I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, so you're kind of lost interest in this because of the previous works of the developer.
And don't get me wrong, like, I'm always open to giving something a second chance. And
Yeah.
so if I hear that Detroit, Beyond Human is incredible, God, the story is like on par with like BioShock or something or whatever, then okay, yeah, great, because I'm always looking for like that next really big, experience. But this is not a game that I care at all about until it comes out.
Yeah, I was at a point where I was like, well, I'm going to have to find somebody to let me borrow their PS4, and I'm going to go get a copy of this because I really want to play it. And now I'm at a point where like I kind of have to see more of what this is. And not to say that what I saw was bad, but it was just much different than what I had built this game up to be in my head. It looks good. I mean, it looks like it's going to tell a story, an interesting story, and it looks visually appealing. It just was much different than I was.
But
I was
it's a
thinking
big
it was.
game worth talking about because a lot of people are excited about it. I just am trying to figure out why.
Yeah. I androids. Everybody likes androids.
Maybe it's like a follow-up to Blade Runner.
Maybe. I mean, it kind of seems Blade Runner.
Very similar, yeah. I don't know. Whatever. Beyond Detroit, Beyond Two Human Souls, whatever.
I thought the low point in Sony's conference was when they were You know what? Never mind. That was from a different conference.
There
I was
was
thinking-
no low point.
I was
Sony
thinking of-
rules,
yeah.
FYI.
No, I was thinking of something, but I just dawned on me now. It was from Ubisoft's. So strike that in there.
I thought Sony did a really good job of making it all about the games. However, and I never thought I would hear myself saying this, I feel like there should have been a little bit more in between some of the trailers that they showed, because it was just trailer. Here's another trailer. Here's a trailer. No release date, no release date, no release date, no release date. There were a whole bunch of games, but a lot of them didn't have a release date. A lot of them had a generic 2018, not even like early 2018 or spring 2018. Some of them had generic 2018 release dates. So I thought the presentation could have used a little bit more pizzazz in between.
I will say this. I think Sony overall had a really cool conference. Like, when I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, they're the winner. They're so great. Woo, Sony, woo, Sony.
did not feel that way.
You know what's funny, though? Like, now that I think about it afterward, you're right. It's just like, hey, guys, thanks for coming to E3. Here's all the games coming out in 2018.
Yeah.
One game might be out this year. We're not going to tell you which one. Good luck figuring it out. But, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it was fine. It just makes me feel confident that, like, hey, now that I have a PS4, I've still got a backlog of games to play. There's still a lot of cool games coming out. And I know we touched very casually on Shadow of the Colossus, but right there, that game announcement, and I knew what it was immediately. I love that game.
That was big. That was big.
When they told me that game, and you know why that was such a big deal? It's not because of the game itself. It's because Last Guardian was so bad. And it was such a letdown that it was kind of like, I'm never going to see another game from this company, Japan Studio, whatever it is, ever again. And then they're like, hey guys, here's Shadow of the Colossus that looks like an actual movie. Like, the minute that dragon comes out of the ground in the trailer, there's something about, like, the way the camera moves or the frame rate or something or other. It didn't look like a video game for a minute. I was like, okay.
Well, the thing is, like, with Shadow of the Colossus, when it came out at the time on the PlayStation 2, it was a really good-looking game for the PlayStation 2. And you're like, wow, like, these big open plains and, like, the rocks and the environment is beautiful.
There's no
and
enemies in the game except for the Colossi, too.
Are these huge creatures, and they're furry, and they're rocky and everything. And visually, it was impressive. Mm-hmm. And then the gameplay
was horrendous for the most
part.
Well,
the controls are wonky, but the game is excellent.
Yes.
So now, to have it remade with modern visuals and take all those things and the environments and the creatures and really, like, bringing them to the modern age of visuals, it just looks awesome. And the rumor is there's going to be optional new controls, because the controls were a little bit wonky on the PS2. But it's an excellent game.
There were also a handful of Colossi that were omitted from the original game,
which will not
and
be
they probably won't be in there. But there are 16 original Colossi in the game. There are no other enemies in the game at all. Have you ever played it?
No.
Okay.
I've heard about it. I mean, you've talked about it.
It's a very simple concept. You're on this horse. It's you and the horse. That's all you get.
Yeah.
If you want to find an enemy, it tells you, like, this is your next target. You hold your sun up in the air, or your sword. And the sun, literally, you have to position your sword to wherever the sun is in the game. And when the sun hits the sword, it creates, like, depending on if you're close or far away from it, the sun will, like, pinpoint, like, your sword. Your sword will essentially reflect off of it. So when it becomes a fine point, it means you're going in the right direction. If you get into an area with shadows, you can't do that, and you're like, I don't know where to go. So you kind of have to wander, right? But anyway, cannot ruin this game at all, because I don't care if you ever play the old ones, you will need to play this one, right? This game has one of the coolest stories. It has one of the best endings to a video game. And not only that, but every experience is unique, because every Colossi is almost like a dungeon in a way. It's like they're not just climb them, kill them, run away. It's like, figure out, how do you get onto this one? Like, everyone is different. So it's like taking a Zelda game and just giving you bosses, except every boss is like the dungeon itself. Really cool. There's something about that game that
it looks good. I've always heard good things, and it looks good. I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, like, Ico was a kind of a fan favorite, but then Shadow of the Colossus kind of, like, took things to a new level, and then Last Guardian was like, here's everything you loved, except we just destroyed it and crushed it. And then they were like, guys, we're really sorry about that game. We're giving you the other Shadow of the Colossus game.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, but no, this is not like a remake. This is like a reimagining, and I think that's an important way to describe it. So that was my favorite thing about E3. Maybe my second or something.
Sony always does a good job with, like, that big, like, you had no idea. There's like something that they have something that you did not know was coming every
Right.
conference, and I give them my hats off to them for that.
They
because
have
it's
a
not
lot
easy
of
to do.
tricks in their bag. I mean,
Yeah.
they could throw a Kingdom Hearts, a Final Fantasy in there. They could throw, a celebrated Sony IP. They could bring back Crash Bandicoot and people would lose their mind, right? That's just what Sony does. They have built up a lot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they can always just pick one thing a year and be like,
I think that's exactly what they do. I think what's our
Right.
surprise thing this year?
Yep.
They closed out the show with Spider-Man. We got to see a lot of that.
The one thing that I still have not understood since last year is they talk about Spider-Man like it's this savior of games. Like they announced Spider-Man last year and people were going nuts like, oh my gosh, it's Spider-Man. And I don't know if it's just me, but the Spider-Man games that I have played on console, none of them have been all that good. I don't own one. And I keep games that I think are good because I feel like I'll go back and play them. Maybe not this year or next year, but maybe 5 years from now, I'll go back and play it. And I've never felt like there was a Spider-Man game that blew me away. So the fact that they ended their conference with Spider-Man again, and were really like jazzed up about it, and like, oh, look how great he is, and he's swinging from building to building and all this stuff. And I'm just like, it looks good, but will it play good? I don't know.
Oh, this is
Spider-Man
going to be a
2?
whole different story.
This
because
is a whole yeah.
Insomniac is a company that makes good games.
Yeah.
And, we finally got to see some real gameplay of Spider-Man, and it just looks like... This looks like Spider-Man's Arkham.
Yep, I was thinking the same
not,
thing.
Not because it's going to play the way that Arkham plays, but because Arkham was a game where it's like, okay, let's give Batman a really good game that makes you feel like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And those are great games. So this is going to be Spider-Man's Arkham because it's going to be like, all right, we are going to make you feel like Spider-Man, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm really looking
that's
forward to
exactly how I would have phrased it. It is the Batman of Spider-Man.
it. Yeah.
Can you say that?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like Batman, I felt like I was Batman. In this game, I feel like I'm going to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I
There's
think that's cool.
I've seen people online kind of poo-pooing the QuickTime events that were in there, and people love to like flip out over QuickTime events. I have no problem with the way that this game appears to be using them because it's not like it's doing it to do combat, right?
Yeah.
It's you have your combat, you kind of move into you're transitioning between objectives, and something happens, and then you're hitting your QuickTime events to kind of wrap the building up to make sure it doesn't fall on somebody else. I think that that's well done because the options are either you let it play like a movie, which fine, or you do something to make it interactive, which is also fine. I think that there's no problem with that. But I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I think that this might be finally a Spider-Man game that people don't immediately throw in the garbage.
I will say this. One thing that I guess kind of bums me out just a little bit, but I totally understand it, so I can't really hate on it, is that you cannot kill people in the game. And there's one point...
Of course you can.
I know, but there's one point in the demo where like
He kicks
he's
the guy
fighting
off
a
the
bunch
bridge, and then he brings it back.
It's not. I think it's like it's off the roof of the building or something. He like kicks him off, and you're like, yeah. And then he's like, just kidding. Blah, pulls him back, and you're like,
No, dude. If you're gonna feel
I
like
get it.
Spider-Man,
I know you can't kill anybody.
That's part of it.
I get it.
Batman doesn't kill anybody either, but he does punch him so hard in the face they go unconscious.
No, and I get it. I guess, but like they made a point to like mention that at some like not during the conference, but like afterward. And I was kind of like, because with Spider-Man, it's so cool because you're like so high up in the air and there's like all this freedom. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I'd love to like punch somebody off. Like, dude, in the Hulk game, remember we talked about earlier? I could literally jump off a building with a person's head in my fist and just like slam them into the street below. But they're not dead. JK.
Oh, well.
Oh no, they were all robots or something in that game.
Yeah,
That's fine. But like, that's whatever. Dude, if I can just throw webs like mad everywhere.
It's I'm very much looking forward to it. That's gonna be a 2018 release too, so it's like, okay, we got a little wait. But
That's all right. Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Spider-Man's timeless. It doesn't need a movie tie-in, you know what I mean? So whatever.
Is there anything else about Sony's conference that we need to mention before we close out?
Their weird troll CEO guy who's a very strange individual.
They were the ones that had the waterfall thing too, right?
yeah, they opened up with that musical piece.
Yeah.
That was for Uncharted, I think.
That's cool.
That
I
was
couldn't
cool.
figure out what that was at first because it was just like the music and the lights. And I'm
Like
what is
centaurs
this?
or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I knew that immediately was Uncharted at that point. But like the God of War one too was neat. Like they had some cool like effects and stuff going. But yeah, I mean, he pretty much just came out and was like, hey, here at Sony, we love games, we love gamers, blah, blah, blah. Here's some trailers, enjoy, have a great time.
Yep.
And then that was, I tell you what, the one thing about the conference that really bothered me, and you always know, like, at one point, like, when your hopes are being completely shot down, it was at the very end of it, when, like, it almost looked like they were going to do one more thing after Spider-Man, and then like, they like, panned to the audience, the camera, and everyone's just, like...
But that was what I was...
Just, like, get up. And
the audience, I thought, were so weird during the Sony conference.
Yeah.
Like, every time they show them, they were like...
Yeah, they were not very engaged.
No. But, you know, okay, look, there is no perfect formula for E3 because we've had people come out and tell us about sales figures we don't care about. We've had people tell us about what's going on inside the business, don't care about it. All we want to see are trailers.
These
when they show
people
us
look
one thing that we
drugged,
love, we go boom, crazy, everyone claps.
Yeah.
And then the other games, everyone's like, whatever, that's cool, just show us the next one. Please show us like something we really want to see.
Yeah.
And then this time they were just like, look, we're just going to listen to everybody and give you what you want, right? And then the crowd doesn't react the particular way that we expect. Who cares?
It just seems so bizarre. Like, I'm used to seeing that during Nintendo's conference because, I mean, we talked about this before when they announced the Switch, and all of them are like professional businessmen where they're like, yes, present your information to me. I'm here for business and not for pleasure.
Yeah.
But like that, like the Sony conference was really weird because you usually have a very loud and engaged audience, and I don't know what was wrong.
Maybe
with
there
these
wasn't
people
any time for being engaged because it was just like at the end of every trailer, the next trailer started immediately.
That is a good point. They did do that. They just slammed trailer after trailer after trailer.
Right.
So maybe that was part of it. But yeah,
at the same time,
it was weird when they were paying out the audience, and the audience was just like,
that's what we want. We just want to see what's next. We want to see one thing, and if we get excited, we want to see the next thing. And that's really all we want. And, like, I don't care. None of this matters to me. Just show me games. You know? That's fine. I mean, their CEO guy, he's goofy and cool. That's fine. Whatever. It's just he's just a little weird. Like, he came out and he kept talking. I'm like, all right, just
yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was the PUNCHcast episode 16?
Yeah.
16.
That is it.
If you want to follow the group on Twitter, it's at DwnFwdPUNCH, at DwnFwdPUNCH. If you want to follow me, it's at Sergio Armani. If you want to follow Tover,
Echo Bedeckel.
if you want to follow Dave.
Just find me on PSN. It's the only thing I play.
Search every Dave on Twitter, and eventually you'll find
Dave
his.
Ford Punch at PSN.com.
Or try that. I don't know.
That is not a real address.
No.
I'm sorry, it's .org.
And
.net. Whatever.
Brian, where can everybody follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at @BBestvin. Jason will put it on the bottom of the screen there. And if you want to check out my newest kind of delve into social media / the internet, you can check out my fish channel on YouTube. I am the Fish Tank Guy. Just type it in, you'll find me.
All right, that's it. Like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to punch that subscribe button. Until next time, keep on gaming.